The current session, which is going to happen, will have the one and only William Dalrymple speaking about his experience as a travel writer.
My early career, for the first half of it, was really writing travel books. First of all, a book called In Xanadu, which I wrote when I was still at Cambridge, followed by a book called City of Jinns, which is about Delhi. Then my first really kind of proper adult book, which is called From the Holy Mountain, about the monasteries in the Middle East. There's a collection of journalism, which includes lots of travel writing, called The Age of Kali, which has got an essay on Goa, where I'll read a little extract from. And then I came back a few years ago with 9 Lives, the first travel book I'd written for 15 years. So I'm going to give you a little extract from each of these books, which I think show, hopefully, a writer maturing. The first book, which I'm going to read from in Xanadu, is a very embarrassing piece of juvenilia, which I hope you will forgive the multiple Orientalist, colonial, imperialist prejudices oozing from every sentence, but there's some quite nice jokes, and I'll start with that one. Normally, there's a nice, the opposite of a vicious circle of reading and travelling. I read about something or somewhere, I then go and visit it, you meet someone, you have a conversation, maybe write an article about it, and a seed is sown and it develops. Holy Mountain, I've written 4 or 5 articles about the different Christian communities in the Middle East separately. I've been to see the Copts, I've been to see the Palestinian Christians. Suddenly I realised that it was all part of one pattern, and it was one story. And although they were, the situation of the Greek Orthodox in Istanbul was very different from the Copts in Cairo, which was different again from a monk in the Levant, there was a story which united them. And so I ended up doing a book. Again, with 9 Lives, there was a couple of interviews that I did as articles for The New Yorker. And then I suddenly realised that there was a pattern here, and it would make a nice grouping. In Xanadu, as I told you, was a sort of cynical thing to get a student grant at a university. Kali is just a collection of pieces. City of Jinns, I was living in Delhi and I was fascinated by the place I was living. So each book has its own process of growth, and always you're worrying about whether it's going to work or whether it can happen, and you have to refine the idea. And 9 Lives is probably the most difficult to work, because I never was quite sure what I was after until I found it. A story like Prasada Matamataji was a wonderful find, but you can't go looking for them. You know that there's such a thing as Jain nuns, and maybe you know that there's going to be a lot of them in somewhere like Srivala Belagola. But you start talking to people, and you don't know what you're looking for until eventually you stumble on a story, or someone tells you about something. But 9 Lives and From the Holy Mountain are rigorously factual, and I would use the same technique as I would use for something like The New Yorker, where the fact checker will ring up and check everything. It's my technique is to write interviews down, occasionally record them as well, but that, in a sense, I think what's good about writing things down is you edit it as you go along, and it makes you think as you're talking to the person. And if you're just recording it, you can get lazy and sort of nod off. It keeps you very alert and concentrated to take notes. And I often find at the end of a long interview, like the one with Prasanna Matamataji, you're completely drained, because you're alert and in full concentration throughout. So there's no invention. There's no writing diaries at the end of the evening. It's like a journalist. It's sitting with a notebook, taking things down as it's spoken. And all these books, you kindly said in your introduction about the description, but I think the heart of travel writing really is individuals. It's people. And descriptive writing and history tie things together, but the heart of it is to get people's dialogue down. And particularly with 9 Lives, which a lot of it is in reported speech. It's long passages of people telling me their stories.